What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have a collection update for you. So, got a whole bundle of stuff here, stuff that I picked up in record stores. Going to go over the entire little batch that Head Split Records sent us not too long ago. Some stuff that was sent to me, some stuff I picked up at Heavy Hell, and even the stuff that was in the Metalhead box here recently. So, pretty fair amount to go over, and I will definitely tell you that this is a very grindcore-centric collection update at a certain point, because Head Split hooked us the fuck up with some grindcore, so I'm eager to tell you all about how fucking ridiculous that shit is. So this is a pretty moderate stack, so let's just get right into it. Toxik Dis Morta. This is the fourth full length from this New York-based thrash/speed metal band. They reunited back in 2013 after a long hiatus. I believe Josh Christian is the only original member left of this band. But I was really interested in this one because I heard a lot of rumblings about it, and I can see why. Now, I do own Think This. I think that's a really solid album. The guitar work on it is absolutely amazing. It's very technical. The songwriting is fucking wild. I've always had issues with the vocals being so high-pitched and like very power metal-y. But honestly, on this one, it kind of works a bit better. Like, they're definitely wild. The new singer in here can wail his ass off. But the music on here is possibly even more heavy and crazy than they've been before. Like, songs like Feeding Frenzy is a whirlwind of guitars, and the guitar tone is much heavier than I think it's been in years. But across this entire album, the transitions are absolutely nuts. There's almost this sort of like schizophrenic energy on here where it just goes from one thing to the next, and with blistering speed, like pretty much all throughout it. There are parts of this that I would even say are akin to bands like Zimmer's Hole or even Strappy Young Lad, like circa Alien, but again, played through like a classic, speed metal, thrash metal filter. Like, it's not as wild and crazy as those albums are, but it's very similar just in terms of like the transitions and even the samples. They actually even sample the Christian lady that was yelling at people in grocery stores and trying to splice in the word motherfucker every second. Like, I'm a holy person, motherfucker. I'm one of the chosen, motherfucker. Somehow, I doubt it. I'm reasonably sure she was telling all the people in her jail cell the same thing, and I'm pretty sure they all believed her as much as everyone else believed her in that grocery store. But I really like the dynamics on here. There's a lot of really cool, like, switch-ups in terms of style. Like, Devil in the Mirror kind of has a almost like Queen or like Styx-like intro before it gets into the much heavier parts, but very vocally driven, a lot more soft, but a lot more like epic. Like almost kind of rock opera-ish, except, it's not like entirely a rock opera. I'm not really big on those, but I like the whole grand build-up of that song, and then it just gets right into their heavy fucking nuts sound overall in here. Overall, this kind of wasn't what I was expecting. I was kind of expecting something as, more of a throwback towards their earlier stuff. Again, like Think This sounds very different than this, but what I got was kind of a cool surprise. Like, I really think this is an insanely heavy album for what it is. Like, I don't think of like speed metal as like the heaviest style of metal, because I mean, it isn't, but this is really heavy, and the production on here is really good. The guitars are very thick and chunky, and again, there's this kind of wild energy to this. I really dug this. This is a solid album. So yeah, if much like me, you didn't know this band had come back, definitely check this out. This is a really solid release, pretty much all the way through. So yeah, check it out. P.I.L.A.U All Will Suffer EP. This is the third EP overall from this Detroit death thrash band. Came out this year on MNRK Heavy. I have been a fan of this band pretty much since their start. Like, I was a big fan of Circle of Darkness when it dropped, but I actually have the 2 EPs previous, and they pretty much sold me on their live performance. They absolutely kicked ass live. Now, we were supposed to see these guys on the Creeping Death 200 Stab Wounds tour not too long ago, but they had to drop off because their drummer had recently left the band. And while they did get a new drummer, it was a little bit soon to actually throw them into a show, and they would have to pick up additional dates after that. So we got to see Spirit World instead, which was absolutely awesome too, because those guys were fucking killer live. Anyway, I really wanted to hear material off of this live because holy shit, this EP is awesome. Very thrashy, but very groove-laden. There's a lot of hardcore breakdowns in here and just sick, brutal fucking grooves. Like, there's just like a little bit of like dying fetus energy to some of these songs in here. The vocals have a really good hardcore bellow to them. You get occasional screams in there. There's a lot of stuff in here that is very similar to bands like Enforced, Power Trip, or even say like Tombstoner, because there's definitely a lot of death metal that really drives these songs, especially in the groovier sections, which I was kind of surprised that most of this is kind of groove laden. Like, it's not the fastest EP. It definitely has its fast sections, but man, when the groove hits, like, it's just instant mosh pit energy. Especially Suffer. That song has just some absolutely gnarly, just kind of lumbering caveman fucking death metal grooves to it. Like, this is kind of caveman death thrash, if that's a thing. Reality of Filth has even like kind of like some slamish riffs on it too. I want to say this is maybe 20 minutes, but the whole EP absolutely whoops ass. And I like the fact that some of the breakdowns are a little bit off time. Like, they're not just like straightforward, just chug 4/4 time. Like, there's a couple of like interesting accents in the drum patterns. But I legit dug everything on here. It's only 4 tracks. I strongly recommend this if you're just a big fan of groove-laden death thrash. Like, again, if you like Enforced, Power Trip, especially Tombstoner, I think Tombstoner is a really good comparison for this band. Definitely check this EP out. Check out all their other shit too. Like, I own all their stuff so far, and it's all been really good. So yeah, check them out. All right, we got a couple here from Thrash Squatch, and this was something that was actually sent to me from the singer. When I went over the last album in the Metalhead box and, you know, pretty much praising the following collection update, he actually got a hold of me and sent me some more stuff because he really appreciated the review. This is the frontman of this band. And as well as this, he sent me some other stuff that I'm going to show you here after this. But this band is straight up thrash metal, kind of like crossover energy, but honestly, when it comes down to the songwriting, it's not entirely crossover. It's more like Bay Area thrash. Now, the frontman actually explained to me that, you know, in the earlier years, he was still doing a grindcore project, so he was still adapting his vocals to thrash metal. And you can definitely tell, like, they're a little bit grittier than they are on the latest album, the one that I went over in the last collection update. But what we have here is the first album, Rager at the Lake, and we have a live album, Sightings Are Real, live at the Ritual Knife. And both of these are awesome for, like, completely different reasons. This is, you know, again, their first album. Again, the vocals a little bit more rough, but all the thrashy riffs are pretty much fully intact. I think the songwriting on the new album is a little bit better than this. Like, this is more raw, straight ahead, a lot of energy, a little bit more aggressive and less nuanced than the last one, but that's still really cool. Like, the title track in here actually sounds like a fucking old Exodus song. Has that same sort of energy, and I want to say some of the vocals actually kind of reminded me of Paul Bailoff a little bit. There's even occasional blasts on here, and occasionally it gets like a little bit darker, like the, I guess, technically the title track in here, Thrash Squatch is here, actually sounds more like Possessed than anything else, like kind of that early proto-death metal, like, you know, harsher thrash sound. And I have to say, I love the song titles in here. They definitely have a fun theme with the whole Sasquatch thing, or Thrashsquatch, rather. Not Extinct, Just Hard to Find, that's track 8. Track 6, 70 to 80% of sightings are real. For Thrashsquatch, I think that's true. For Sasquatch, I don't know. Kind of doubtful on that one. And I like the outro on here. It's this interesting instrumental. There's a really cool bass line that fades in, and it kind of throws in a lot of samples, I think, pertaining to Sasquatch, but it kind of gives me like the whole vibe of, like, you know, stuff like White Zombie and Ministry in terms of like splicing in audio samples, kind of add to the atmosphere and shit. Pretty solid album. Now the live set, pretty much just a live set of them playing a lot of stuff on here, and then some stuff that would be on the follow-up album. The big thing that I loved in here is the cover of Possessed to Skate, originally done by Suicidal Tendencies. Fucking absolutely whoops ass. And I do like the fact that there's some funny stage banner. I think there's some references to Ariana Grande's tits, and pretty much telling everyone to come inside by the stage because it's very lonely in here. And on this one, you can definitely tell the vocalist had kind of settled in more on the thrash delivery. Like, kind of sounds a bit more like The Accused this time, but it kind of fits the style overall versus this one. Like, they're still good on here, but I think this fit a little bit better. Now, on this, they did make mention of doing a split with Witch Haven, but I looked around for that. I couldn't find it, so maybe that was something that got tabled, unfortunately. But yeah, this live set absolutely whoops ass. Thank you guys so much for sending me these. Now I'm going to put these down because I want to show you the other stuff they sent me. Now, they give me a really kick-ass patch there, which, again, going to have to start a new jacket, kind of running out of real estate in the old one. And a whole bunch of stickers, which, you know, there's already one on my fridge, and I'll probably put these in other places because they're stickers. And a pair of beer koozies. Now, we have our standard beer koozie, you know, got the logo on it, kind of standard design. We've all seen beer koozies like this, but this, I have never seen one like this. And, I mean, they had to exist. This has a little puncher in it so you can fucking shotgun beers. And that is quite possibly the most thrash style of beer koozie there is, I think. Yeah, Beer Savage Party Starter. So, Yeah, I guess this is the one you kick off the night with, or, I don't know, keep rolling the night with. I think it's going to be a short night if you just keep using this thing all night and just shotgun beers. Man, I've had nights like that in the past, and they didn't end very well. Mostly I think they ended with Taco Bell, vomiting, and then hangovers. So, yeah, I don't know. Use safely if you have one of these. But yeah, this was an awesome fucking thing they sent me. I was pretty fucking fascinated with it, and I almost wanted to just get one beer to try it. I'm eventually going to have to christen this just because I got to see how well it works. Like, I'm just kind of curious because I keep hitting this button and I keep imagining the mess that it's going to probably make, but I still want to check it out. But yeah, thank you guys so much, Thrashsquatch. Awesome albums, and yeah, this is probably going to wreck me in the future, but fuck it, that'll be fun. Mortician, Chainsaw Dismemberment, the second album from these New York brutal death / death grind legends. We'll just say brutal death. I don't know. They're like the heaviest fucking band out there, I think, still. I don't know, debatable. There's a lot of heavy bands out there, but, you know, Mortician is a very particular kind of heavy. Now, this is the 2022 reissue on Relapse Records. I've been meaning to get this one for a while, just patching up holes in the collection. I mean, it's Mortician. I know exactly what to expect. I've jammed this album online. It's 1/3 horror movie samples, 2/3 the heaviest fucking death metal that there is. Their sound is fucking ridiculous. God damn, Will's bass tone is just insane on here. I feel like it could shake the fucking fillings out of my teeth sometimes, but Roger's fucking guitar work, absolutely amazing. The movie samples, I'm always trying to figure out where they're from. I'm reasonably sure there's at least one from Black Christmas on here. I probably should have looked them up, but there were a couple on here that I definitely knew, namely Wolfen, just because I love that movie, very underrated movie, and the song's badass. But Lore of the Dead, Mortician Part 2, I mean, they have some Phantasm samples. I love Phantasm. And, well, I mean, not like all the Phantasm movies, but definitely like the first two. I think this was from the third one. Either way, the song fucking rules. God, there's so many good ones on here. Camp Blood is awesome. Rabid has always been one of my favorites. It's Mortician. You just listen to it and you're just beaten over the head by the outright brutality of it and the ridiculous nature of all the horror movie samples and just obscenely heavy shit. Like, that's the appeal to Mortician. That and their live show, they absolutely kick ass live. I think I have 2 more full lengths to get. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to go look through at least the archives to see which ones I'm missing, but this one, definitely up there in terms of favorites. Like, it's not quite, you know, Hacked Up for a Barbecue. That's probably still my favorite, but I do dig this one a lot. Man, they are overdue for a new album, just saying. But yeah, as far as a remaster goes, this is a solid remaster. It sounds just as grisly and disgusting as it originally did, and I think it is very important to retain all the filth that Mortician produces in the studio, for damn sure. So yeah, if you have not picked up this remaster and you're missing this in your discography of Mortician shit, definitely pick this one up. It's Mortician. That's pretty much all you need to know. Check it out. Rottenness, Die Wege der Lust. This is the second album from this Mexican brutal death metal act. Came out in 2011. I know the title's in German. They're from Mexico, or at least one member is. As far as I looked up on archives, it looks like everyone else is from the States at this point. But I believe most of the members on here were from Mexico at the time of this release. So, you know, this was like, what, 11 years ago? So this was a gift from Metal Viking 82. We ran into him at the Heavy Hell show, and he told me he wanted to give me a CD, and he gave me this, and like, wow, I'm going to have to break out the censor bar on the collection update for this. And it isn't necessarily because I feel like I have to, because, I mean, it's, well, it's gross, but I want to, because I don't even like looking at this album cover. There's a lot going on this cover, and I don't think I like any of it. Actually, I'm pretty sure I don't like any of it. There's so many things that I could point out that are gross, but I don't want to. So anyway, this band is straight up brutal death metal. You know, big plunky snare, pig vocals, not really into either, but admittedly, I like the guitar work in here. The guitar work, I think, is really solid. There's a lot of solid, just big, gnarly riffs. Vocally, it drives me nuts because there are tons of pig vocals on here, but he switches up to a really solid growl, and it sounds great. Honestly, it could totally supplant all the pig vocals on here and still be brutal as fuck, and I kind of wish it did. But it doesn't, so I was kind of stuck with pig growls for most of this. There's solid slam breakdowns on here. There's a lot of fucking groove. Musically, there's a lot of stuff that I liked, but I mean, again, the pig vocals kind of take me out of it, the plunky snare. Some of the samples are very interesting on here. I believe they sampled the whole like mock courtroom scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where he's sentenced to castration, double castration. That's always one that stuck out to me. They also have a little excerpt of Rodney Dangerfield's role in Natural Born Killers, which I forgot how much that role made my fucking skin crawl with all the shit he said to Juliette Lewis. But I think making the listener uncomfortable is kind of a thing. I mean, especially when you look at some of the song titles. Like, two cunts, one cum. That's efficient. I gently squeezed the trigger in her cunt. That's dangerous. We also have the two-part saga of Fist Fucked. That's F-U-C-T. And As Far as the Fist Can Go, which is the next track, which I believe is the conclusion of that story, which apparently ended at 420, which is the second to last song. And then that is capped off with a pretty solid Punch and Stench cover of Fleister Boogie. Yeah, this album is a bit too much for me in a lot of respects, but there are some things I really do like about this. Like, again, when they settled into the natural, just deep growls and tried some more like wild technical stuff. There's stuff in here that I would say is kind of comparable to like Cephalic Carnage at times. I did dig that. But overall, not really my thing. Of course, I'm still going to link it down below like I do with everything else. Form your own opinions. Check it out yourself. Not really for me, but I thank you very much, Metal Viking, for actually giving me this. This is, still really cool that you did that. But yeah, this one kind of missed it for me, but check it out for yourself, form your own opinions. And yeah, enjoy, kind of. I mean, I kind of get it if you don't, but if you do, that's perfectly fine too. Check it out though. Wraith, Absolute Power. This is the second album from this Indiana-based black and thrash, black and speed metal act. It's kind of like in between all that. I have been looking for this album for a while, and people want ridiculous amounts of money for it on Discogs. But luckily, when I was at Heavy Hell, Wraith was playing, ran into Jason Schultz, who I've been in communication with, solid fucking dude. Is in two solid bands if you haven't checked out Idle Throne yet. But got a BS with him. We actually talked about our love of Cephalic Carnage, which I thought was really fucking awesome. And I actually saw they had copies of this, like, holy shit. I've been looking for this forever. And this is the special edition that includes the Index Case Quarantine Sessions EP on it, which is absolutely awesome too. But Absolute Power, this one might be my favorite out of all three of their albums in terms of their full lengths. I think the first one's awesome. I love the new one, but there's something about this one. Oh man, like the production on it's perfect. The riffs are fucking golden. There's so much like D-beat fucking like, Venom energy on here. Like definitely comparable to Toxic Holocaust. There's so many great riffs on here. It's pretty much all awesome riffs. Really cool leads. There's a lot of like Bay Area sort of vibes to a lot of the songs, but again with that sort of blackened energy to them. Like every song in here fucking whoops ass. And there are no breaks in this album. It pretty much is just one after the fucking other. I think Undo the Chains has a little bit more groove and a little bit more variety, and I do like it for that, but I like this one's just full speed ahead sort of energy. It makes this album kind of go by a little quickly, but the entire time it's going by, you are just banging your head non-fucking stop. They do an amazing cover of Death Comes Ripping, originally done by the Misfits, but I have to say, like, some of my favorite material in here is the Quarantine Sessions. It's all themed with the pandemic. The tracks go as follows: Outbreak, Isolation, Diagnosis, and Extinction. We didn't quite get to the last one, thankfully, but it is cool how they had it themed that way. And I have to say, the grooves that are on Diagnosis in particular, holy shit, might be my favorite track out of the entire Quarantine Sessions. One of my favorite tracks on here, but kind of hard for me to say a favorite track on here because I fucking love, like, every track. The title track's amazing, Acid Mass, Meaningless Planet, like I could name every track in here. It's fucking awesome. This was probably my favorite find when it came down to stuff I picked up at Heavy Hell. It was awesome to get this for a price that wasn't like through the fucking roof. Because if you look on Discogs, everyone wants a ridiculous amount of fucking coin for this. And it was awesome to buy directly from the band and support them. If you have not checked this out, holy shit. I mean, if you love Midnight, Toxic Holocaust, Venom, Motorhead, fucking Kill 'Em All, anything like that. It's fast, it's meat and potatoes, it's just loaded with fucking energy. Definitely check this out. Awesome fucking album. Check out all their stuff, honestly. Wraith just fucking rules. But yeah, check this one out in particular. Cemetery Lust. And this kicks off all the head split stuff here. we have a compilation here, Crypt of Insanity / Unholy Gravebangers. This is a compilation of both those demos. Unholy Gravebangers came out in 2009, and Crypt of Insanity came out in 2010, and this is a Portland-based blackened thrash metal act. Features Seth Trevor of Torture Rack. I actually have a number of their albums. I've even brought them up in underrated albums before. And this is some filthy, sleazy fucking death thrash. And it's ridiculously raw. Like, these are very rough demos, but it's fucking awesome. It's sleazy, it's evil, the songs are fun, they're very meat and potatoes, they're all ridiculously fast and kind of unhinged. Granted, I like the more polished work on, you know, their studio albums, but it was kind of cool to hear them in demo form. And yeah, the album cover's fun. We already made enough jokes about the treatment of prisoners in that prison, dungeon, whatever's going on there. She's at least doing better than these two, I think. Anyway, this compilation is pretty ridiculous. Again, the songs are very fast in nature. There are some more groovy parts. You even have a really cool cover of Necromancer, originally done by Sepultura. I believe that's off of Morbid Visions or Bestial Devastation. I can't remember which, but it's kind of cool hearing an old school cover like that. Again, this is loaded with like ridiculous song titles. Chalice of Booze, Come on the Cross. That's sexy. Succumb to the Sect of Satan, Night of the Creep, just one, not like Night of the Creeps, the movie, which, yeah, there was a lot of creeps in that one. Favorite track in here is probably Tenement. I think that one's just really solid. It's a little bit more groovy. There's a little bit more evil atmosphere to it, and there's some cool vocal trade-offs where they kind of switch from the more black and shriek to like deep vocals kind of off and on, and they really complement the song well. Now, the Unholy Gravebangers demo is a little bit more raw and louder. Like, it just fucking snarls. It sounds like they all huddled around like a tape deck and just hit record and just started playing their instruments as loud as hell. So it has this very DIY live feel. And a lot of the songs that were on this demo, and actually some on Crypt of Insanity, actually ended up on their first two albums. So I have heard these before, just in a much more refined, or at least as refined as they get, version. But hearing them this raw and this disgusting, that, I don't know, like, part of me thinks that's just the way it's intended to be, because this, again, just sounds fucking filthy. I will say that I think some of the songs kind of cut off too soon, but again, I have the more refined versions on the studio albums. But yeah, this one was fun. I kind of knew I'd like it. I already have some of their stuff. If you like your black and thrash extra sleazy, definitely check this band out. I recommend their full lengths as well. They're pretty damn fun. But yeah, check this one out for sure if you want the undiluted version of what they do, because this is this is pretty raw and nasty. But yeah, check it out. Floridian Hippies, Fuel Injected EP. This is the debut EP from this Finnish death grind act. No, they are not from Florida, which I thought actually made it even more interesting. This is a two-man death grind act. This actually includes their 2021 demo, which I believe is only on the CD version, and this is ridiculously nasty, kind of carcass worship death grind. I mean, maybe kind of close to like bands like Regurgitate too. It's really just kind of ridiculous, especially when you get down to the production. And the production is raw as hell, but it's that fucking bass tone. Wow. It is the most unruly, loud, snarling thing. It drowns out the guitars in some spots. Hell, I think it's even louder than some of the vocals and the drums. What I'm trying to say is it's the loudest fucking thing on this album, but it's absolutely necessary in terms of creating the just kind of wall of filth sound that these guys have. But the thing I really like is the songwriting. It's actually a little bit groovier than I was expecting. It's not just a wall of blast beats. The songs are a little bit longer on here. Awesome riffs. Blues for the Cosmos, I think, is just absolutely awesome. The main riff on it is super fucking catchy for, you know, death grind. Now, as much as I like appreciate the almost obnoxious mix on there, it does kind of hamper the listen overall. Like, I think the music is well constructed. I like the riffs in here. It's just, you got to bring that bass tone down a little bit because it does hamper it a bit. I do really like the last track on the EP. God, let's see. This isn't finished, so give me a minute. Kai Ki Hai Si. That's the song. And that is originally done by, Puhenlinkopi. I know nothing about that band. Actually, I did not know that band existed until I listened to this, and I still know nothing about that band. But it is interesting to hear a death grind band cover a punk band, especially with this punk band, and it sounds like they kind of had like more of a surf rock sound. So it was like listening to a death grind version of like Dick Dale or the B-52s, which now that I say that out loud, I kind of want to hear more of that because I think it would be awesomely ridiculous. Now the demo in here I think is very interesting because it's kind of different than the EP. First off, the bass is lower in the mix. The guitars stand out and they're really thick and chunky, but the drums are complete mud and kind of indistinguishable. I know this is grind and the whole idea is to make it sound filthy and disgusting, but I think you can do that and kind of, get the levels right. But the songs I think are interesting because they're even shorter. Like most of the songs on the demo aren't even a minute long, and there's a good chunk of them that are instrumental. And again, song titles are just kind of interesting. Track 4, what tends to happen when two individuals disagree? I feel like there's a life lesson to be learned there. Number 2, two wrongs don't make a right. Already a life lesson learned right there. Track 6, on a van trip in California in 1967. This band is odd. I don't know what they're talking about half the time. Like they're just strange. Like hell, there's a song in here, something called Yeah. I don't know, but I know I like the music. I definitely want to hear more by them. I like this brand of death grind. It's strange. Just gotta work on the mixes, like just a little bit. Like I want all the filth possible, but it has to be mixed well. And again, that bass tone, while I appreciate it, it kind of hampers the mix. But overall, yeah, definitely check this band out. While the mix on either it may not be that great, the music itself is fucking awesome. If you're a giant grind fan, I'm pretty sure you'll fucking like it. It's just quick and to the point. And again, the Fuel Injected EP itself, the first 5 tracks in here, very much in the vein of early Carcass. I would even say like Reek of Putrefaction as well as Symphonies of Sickness. Solid stuff. Check this one out. It's a fucking gnarly listen and it's a ton of fun. Gestation, Suffering from the Start. This is, I believe, the first demo from this Arizona-based death grind act, or rather gore grind act. This is 10 tracks in about 10 minutes. It is all filthy and disgusting. You have drums that sound like a trash can lid being hit with a ball peen hammer. You have pitch-shifted gurgles. You have thick, sludgy guitars. But honestly, I kind of like it all. Like, it kind of works. It's got a lot of hardcore groove to it, especially when it comes down to the breakdowns. Like, granted, these songs are super short, but they do squeeze in a lot of cool breakdowns in here that actually have a lot of groove. And the pitch-shifted gurgles, I mean, like, vocally, it's not my favorite thing, but there's something kind of ridiculous that I like about it in general. Like, I think they're just fun to listen to because they're so goofy and over the top. And while this definitely has, like, elements of early Carcass, especially Reek of Putrefaction, I think it's a little bit catchier than that album. Like, there's a little bit more attention paid to, like, writing some really solid riffs, and the guitars do stand out in the mix more than they do on Reek of Putrefaction, which, honestly, that album, while it's, kind of the precursor to all things gore grind, definitely not my favorite by them. But there are things that I appreciate in terms of its influence, and this band, I think, definitely takes a page out of it, and arguably does some of the stuff better. But one thing I think that Carcass did better was the vocal dynamics switching between Jeff Walker and Bill Steer. This is all gurgle. I could have used some screams in between. And while it might hamper the aesthetic of gore grind, I think the mix, could be cleaned up a little bit. This is a first demo, though. At least I assume it's their first demo. So I really can't knock it too much. And honestly, I think all of it was well executed for what it was. There's standout moments on here. I think the song Meat Man in particular is really good. I love the opening riff. The breakdown on Junk, I think, is fucking absolutely devastating. Again, all this stuff happens in very small increments, but it actually stands out. Recommend checking this one out. It is filthy if you like just gore grind and very raw sounding gore grind, and you're just looking for 10 minutes to kill and you want to listen to something exceptionally brutal. Check this one out. It's a pretty fun, disgusting release. Nasty Face. This is the face Wish How. I still have no fucking idea what that album title means. Anyway, this is their first album, came out in 2021. This band has been around, I believe, since like 2015, 2016. They already have 11 splits out, but this is their first full length. And holy shit, in terms of my favorite thing that came out of this recent Head Split Records box, this is it. Holy shit. This is amazing fucking grindcore. Like, it's labeled as gore grind. There's not a tremendous amount of like the gore grind aesthetic. Like, there's definitely the deep pitch shifted gurgles, but there's a lot of screams to break it up. And the fast, off-the-wall nature and twisted, almost technical dynamics of these songs makes it kind of shine more than a lot of gore grind I listen to. Like, gore grind is generally very primal, very just straight for the fucking gross. There's like really clever breakdowns, really interesting transitions within these very short, like minute-and-a-half songs. The pacing on this is fucking nuts. And holy shit, these songs are really fucking catchy. In a song that is about a minute long, you can get death metal riffs, a solid fucking breakdown, thrash metal sections, a nice D beat. You know, they squeeze in as much as possible in these songs, and I think they do it cleverly, and the transitions are smooth, and they actually end up being very, you know, engaging rather than just being a technical mess. I love the drum work on here. It's very frantic. It's very wild. It's pretty much everything I want out of grindcore. It's very much in that Gnawsome vein of grindcore in terms of the drum work. And these guys know how to write catchy sections, especially like the chuggy riffs on Haulage Container Full of Decomposing Corpses, or the crawling breakdown on, this one's fun, How to Enlarge One's Penis Using Wasp Stings. I'm sure it would work. I'm also sure that you might die. Like, I can picture some bro like laying down in a hospital bed, the nurse just kind of shaking her head, looking at him with the EpiPen, pretty much saying, God, you're a fucking idiot, and him just kind of going, oh, but it's huge though, right? Just tell me it's huge. And then maybe she just doesn't inject him and does the world a favor at that point. Hell, there's even like a crowbar-ish like sludge metal section on Gastrocolic Motility. There's a lot of fun song titles on here. Like, there's a lot of words that I just can't fucking pronounce, so I'm gonna lay off them. Oh, except for Force Fed Bleach. I'm gonna say that one just because that's a cool song title. Flat out, this album is fucking sick. Again, it does have the gurgled vocals, you know, the pitch shifted, almost kind of like piggish frog gurgles, whatever you want to call them, but it's broken up well with the screams, so that kept me from not liking that. I love the production on here. All the songs were fucking fun. Definitely check this band out. I'm already looking forward to hearing more from this band. This is just awesome fucking grindcore, and after going through all that grindcore and an underrated albums thing, I'm still in the mood for grindcore, so this definitely scratched that itch. But yeah, definitely check this out. Fucking awesome album. Organ Failure, Neurological Determination of Death. This is the debut album from this Chicago-based gore grind act. Came out this year on Headsplit Records. We're still in that batch. And this is some filthy fucking death grind once again. Definitely closer to gore grind on here. There's definitely more of a gore feel. Like, you have the deep gore grind gurgles, but it's broken up with hardcore screams. Lots of death metal groove, but broken up with blast beats and sort of like the frantic grindcore riffs as well. And again, something that is kind of close to Reek of Putrefaction in terms of the overall style and vibe of this. I have to say the vocals sound like they are done by either a giant feral pig or a bullfrog the size of a fucking sedan. Like, they are absolutely huge and just disgusting sounding, and I don't know, like, I like them because they match the whole aesthetic of the album, but at the same time, I like to hear them broken up more by the hardcore screams and shouts. That's just me, though. I'm not the biggest fan of, like, deep gurgled vocals, maybe outside of, like, Demolish, and I don't know, I kind of like them on Nasty Face, too. I'm just kind of picky when it comes down to those. But I like this. Like, the drum work is tight. It's very riffy. There's a lot of good guitar work on here. There's even, like, a little bit of, like, sort of death doom just in small chunks on here. The last track, Emptied and Buried, has a big death doom section. There's also some really good D-beat, like, sort of like death metal on here, too. And seeing this listed as a full length, it's only 15 minutes long, but it does have 17 tracks. They even throw in a really nice Regurgitate cover with Face Mutilation. Overall, I really dug this. I'm not the biggest gore grind fan. Like, generally I go for more straightforward grindcore or death grind. And while this is labeled as death grind, I feel like it's more gore grind, especially when it comes down to the subject matter. I mean, yeah, no, a lot of this is very gore grind. Extracting fluids post-mortem, a biopsy of periodontal stalactites. Okay, that's a thing. Rushed amputation within surgical confines. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of carcass worship. Ooh, I do like the track, This Is Going to Hurt, quote unquote, a lot. That's pretty fun, and, you know, not great bedside manner, but none of these guys are doctors, I think. Oh, I forgot to mention this band actually features Ryan Reynolds. Not that one. He's actually a member of Nucleus, who's also based out of Chicago and really solid death metal. But yeah, this is just gross fun. I really dug it. It's only 15 minutes long, but it packs a lot of fucking brutality in 15 minutes. So yeah, if you like your death grind more on the gore grind side, definitely check this out. It is an absolutely filthy listen. P.I.L.A.U. This is their 2022 demo. And this one was kind of a mystery when I looked it up. I really wasn't sure what I was getting because we get a band from DC and a band from Hawaii. This is the band from Hawaii, and honestly, I had to think about it. This might be the first Hawaiian metal band I might have ever listened to. Now, the Palau that is from DC actually has members of Magruder Grind, and I thought that this might be that. Granted, that would have been cool too, but I was pretty fascinated to actually hear metal from Hawaii. Like, that just doesn't seem like it happens very often. Now, I had to look up what Palau was. I think I even heard it pronounced as Pilaf, and I didn't want to associate Pilaf with what this is actually defined as. It's rot and like a filthy rotting smell and wretchedness, and I don't want to associate that with pilaf because I like rice pilaf. It's really good, and I don't want to think about like rotting entrails or anything like that while I eat rice pilaf, which I don't eat very often, and now I kind of want to have some again. Anyway, this is very 80s thrash. Like, it is very much rooted in like Slayer, and maybe even going back as far as like Venom in terms of the style. The production, very 80s, it's very gritty. It even kind of sounds like a demo that was cut in the 80s, honestly, when I listened to it. There's a lot of punk on here too, especially in the song Time for War. A lot of D beats, and honestly, the more I listen to that song, the more it reminded me of Fierce Let's Have a War, like, except this is just the thrash metal version. Warzone, very punky track on here too. There's even like a cool like one-ish intro or like architecture regression with the gunfire and fucking, you know, bombs and shit like that. Like, they definitely wanted that whole, you know, war vibe for it, the whole atmosphere, and I mean, it works. A lot of this feels like worship and tribute for a lot of older bands, and honestly, they do it really well. The vocals, I think, are really well done. They're high-pitched wails and screams, and dude sounds absolutely unhinged. There's solid riffs all over the place. But a lot of this kind of just, again, feels like worship and tribute. Like, it sounds like, yeah, you guys jammed a lot of Slayer, some Exodus in there, some Venom, maybe some Possessed. And while it turned out well, and I think it's executed well, it is very derivative. Now, I really don't have much to say about this one because it's only like 12 minutes long. There's only 4 tracks. All of them, I think, are really good. It's just, you know, sort of a sampler size. But honestly, I want to hear more by this band, mainly because I think it's cool hearing a fucking metal band from Hawaii. That's a pretty like isolated area, and I mean, I'm doing this States of Metal thing, and I need something to talk about from Hawaii, and I legit don't know of any other metal bands from Hawaii. I'm not saying they don't exist, but it would be kind of fascinating to find out more. So I'm actually kind of curious about checking out Hawaii just in terms of their metal scene, because I at least know of one band from there. But yeah, this was the last one from the whole Head Split bundle, which was fucking awesome. Like, they definitely went after our grind-loving selves, but it was really cool to hear some different stuff in there, namely a thrash band from Hawaii. I, again, did not even know that Hawaii had metal bands. This is a lot of fun. It's only 12 minutes. Definitely check it out. Again, very old school thrash. If you love that shit, I'm pretty sure you're gonna dig some of this. So yeah, just check it out. Devine, Defilement, Primitive Gospel. This is the second album from this Icelandic brutal death metal / deathcore act. Honestly, I hear almost only brutal death metal in here, so I don't know if Metal Archives just want to slap deathcore on there, either that or maybe their first album was more deathcore oriented. But this is some insanely brutal shit. Like, this is very groove laden, thick, chunky fucking guitars. I really like the production here. The vocals, I don't know, they kind of sit in an odd register for me. Like, they're kind of like half, like almost sort of that pig delivery, but they're kind of trying to do like more of a mid-range growl with it. And I don't know, like, they're okay, I think. They just feel like a bit overdone, and I think they're really out front in the mix. It's the guitars that really drive this, and the fact that there are tons of just nasty, brutal breakdowns in here with really good riffs over them. Especially the songs Scalped and Storyteller. Scalped has this disgusting, bendy breakdown on it that is just absolute fucking beat the shit out of your best friend in the pit sort of material. And while this does have like a few more technical moments on here where it gets a little bit flashier with the guitar play, this is mostly just about flat out brutality. Like, it is very straightforward in its intent to bash your brains in, much like the sample they use from The Shining, which I always appreciate a good sample from The Shining. That movie's absolutely fucking fantastic, and with Halloween coming up, well, I mean, relatively shortly. I mean, it's September already. Let's fucking start celebrating. It's time to binge some fucking horror movies, and The Shining's always on my list. The only thing I was really kind of put off by was the intro to Chernobog, which is just very strange. Like, it kind of sounds like a weird little folky melody for just a second. It's very muffled, and then it just goes into a regular song, and I was like, why was that even the setup? The setup doesn't do very much for it. Either way, the rest of the song was really cool, and that one was actually, you know, kind of different in the sense that there was more melody to it, because a lot of this is just, again, very brutality forward. But honestly, I really dug it. This was a blind buy. I picked it up just because I was like, well, I mean, it looks heavy. I haven't heard very much on this label, Ghastly Music. I know they cater to a very like brutal death crowd. I figured why not give it a whirl, and this was pretty solid. Again, don't be dissuaded by any deathcore on there. Like, honestly, I'd say this is definitely way more in the brutal death metal spectrum. Very groove laden. If you like all that, strongly recommend checking this out. This is pretty fucking nasty listen and a pretty good blind buy, honestly. So yeah, check it out. Path to War, Chaos Eternal EP. This is the third EP from this Maryland-based death metal act. Pretty much the first exposure I've ever had to this band. I jammed a track when I was, you know, shopping around for Flesh Rot's new album, and I was like, well, why not just order 2 albums, because it's me. I can't just order 1 CD. That's fucking ridiculous. Now, I really dug this one. The band style itself is definitely brutal death metal, but a lot of old school death metal sort of mixed in, so you get a lot of bolt thrower grooves. Kind of works with the whole war theme that's on here. But you also get like brutal death metal chugs in here, and it's very old school brutal death metal, like namely like Broken Hope, Suffocation, Baphomet, stuff like that. And riff-wise, there's a lot of solid stuff on here, especially on the last 2 tracks of the EP, Ancestral Savagery and Ascension Through Death. Both of those kind of take on a little bit more like Death Doom atmosphere. There's more guitar harmonies on it. I think they're a little bit more like sullen and sort of like oppressive versus the relentless chugging that is all over here, especially on the song Even God Bleeds, which I thought was particularly nasty. Fucking solid, just chuggy riffs all over that song. This is very groove laden too. It doesn't overdo the blast beats. They're kind of there like intermittently to sort of like break up the pace of the songs. Now, this does include 2 bonus tracks from their Unjustified Genocide promo in 2020. And the song Unjustified Genocide is really good. The mix in it is different. I think the drums sound better on this promo than they do on this album. I think on this EP, the drums didn't necessarily sound the best. Like, I wasn't a big fan of the snare. It was kind of plunky and also didn't feel very strong. On this bonus track from the promo, they sound really fucking good. Like, they sound like what I think they should sound like in the rest of the EP. It's the last track in the EP that kind of caught me off guard, Abysmal Descent, which is an acoustic sort of outro. It's a really cool, like, dreary melody, but I kind of expected another full-on, like, brutal ass track, especially since this one's like over 3 minutes. Like, that kind of seems like an outro track, and while again it's good, it just kind of felt like the wrong way to cap off such a just nasty fucking CD. But overall, this was pretty sick. I dug this. It's just straightforward death metal, you know, elements of brutal death metal, solid amount of like old school death metal groove. Songwriting's pretty solid in here. I definitely want to check out more of their stuff. I know they have at least 1 full length and I think another EP. Whichever ones I find, I'll probably snag just because I'm me. But yeah, this was really good. So yeah, if you like old school death metal and brutal death metal, want to hear it combined and maybe like a little bit of Death Doom here and there, just check this out. Pretty solid shit. Protector, Excessive Outburst of Depravity. This is the 8th album from this German death thrash act. Pretty much legends. Honestly, in terms of death thrash, this is one of the bands I think of just outright. Them and like Solstice, I would say, are really good examples of just killer death thrash. I got into this band a few years ago after hearing A Shedding of Skin. I absolutely love that album, and I've been trying to collect all their stuff. I'm still missing a couple albums. I got their last one, Summon the Hordes, and I thought it was okay. This album is fucking awesome. Like, this is one of the most high energy releases they've put out in years. Like, this is a super fast, tight album. Death thrash is definitely sort of the main sound in here, but I'd say it favors more thrash. And honestly, with the vocal delivery, it kind of has a blackened thrash feel. Like, this sounds like an even more beefed up and faster and more aggressive Sodom. And that's kind of hard to imagine because Sodom still likes to fucking fly. But this band going a step faster, and man, every song on here absolutely fucking whoops ass. It's very high energy, lots of cool fucking leads. The riffs on here are fucking fantastic. You get really good thrashy blast beats on here, very blackened, like Slayer-ish riffs. Everything on here is just fucking high energy. Open skies and endless seas. Fucking absolutely sick from start to finish. I love the extra demonic vocal intro on Perpetual Blood Oath. And the song 30 Years of Perdition actually kicks off with a mouth harp. So there's, you know, a little bit of extra fun in here. But I mean, overall, this is just a scathing album. Like, it is so fast, it is so in your face, rarely takes a break, and honestly, it gets more vicious as it goes along. This is fucking fantastic. Like, I had heard other people talk about this, other reviewers. I slept on it, and then I was pretty much on Amazon, and I remembered that this was out, and I fucking snagged it, and holy shit, I'm so glad I did. This is possibly a new favorite from Protector in general. Like, I mean, Shedding a Skin is probably my current favorite. I do love a lot of their early stuff, but man, this is kind of on par with it at least. And this band has been around for a long fucking time, so that's definitely saying something. If you're a big fan of death thrash, I strongly recommend this. There's a little bit of a blackened energy to this too, so if you like blackened thrash, I think this fits right in. It's fast, it's brutal, it's relentlessly paced. So many goddamn riffs in here. Strongly recommend this. Definitely check this one out. It's just vicious from start to finish, and I plan on jamming this one a lot, so yeah, check it out. Okay, we have a split here, and I know it only says one band, but it's two. So this is a split between Piss Rot and Ritual Fog. Came out this year. It contains both of their debut EPs. Both bands are from Tennessee, both bands are death metal, and both bands are awesome. And I'm gonna have to open this up so I actually get the track listing on here, because some of these tracks are, well, I want to remember them. Now, the Ritual Fog one I've actually listened to before, because Classy Lonnie sent me a package like fucking forever ago, and it actually included their debut tape. Now, I don't have a tape player because I'm not a big fan of tapes, kind of know that by now, but I was ecstatic to see this was on CD, so I jumped at it because this EP fucking rules. It's only like 8 minutes long, but every track is fucking awesome. It is riff-driven, groovy, brutal as fuck. It's pretty much like Tennessee's answer to 200 Stab Wounds, honestly. I love the chunky guitar tone. I like the fact that there are like hardcore riffs and breakdowns sort of intermingled in the death metal. That's kind of been a favorite thing of mine here lately. The EP fucking rules. Now, Piss Rot I was not familiar with, and when I looked them up and I saw their picture, holy fucking shit, they're young. Like, these kids legit look like they're still in high school. They might be still in high school. I know this actually features a pair of brothers, and this is, well, I mean, it's brutal death metal or old school death metal. It's kind of a combination of the two, and it has like one of the sizzliest, most disgusting sounding HM2-ish tones I've heard. Now, stylistically, I think it sounds very similar to Frozen Soul, and I guess by that, Bolt Thrower. And that's mostly due to the fact that the songs are very groovy, and the vocalist's cadences are very similar to Chad Green's from Frozen Soul. But when you couple in that crispy, sizzly guitar tone with the slams, it's just ridiculously heavy. I actually wrote down crispy slams, which honestly sounds like a fucking slam metal breakfast cereal. Get yourself a bowl, pussy. See you in the fucking pit. Don't worry, this shit only rots the teeth of fucking posers. I don't know, I'm still working on a pitch for that. Maybe start your day the brutal way. Anyway, both bands on here are absolutely awesome. These EPs are both fucking sick. I prefer Ritual Fog just because I think the production's a bit better, but Piss Rot, very young, lots of fucking potential. I recommend both. Now, I forget which distro I got this on. Brian Arkham actually sent me a link a while ago, but I recommend hunting this one down because, I mean, if you're a CD collector, this is ideal. If not, I know both of these bands have band camps and you can get them on tape if you go with tape, or you can like digitally download them or whatever. I know I listen to Ritual Fog on Spotify. Either way, check both of these bands out. Tennessee's got some fucking cool death metal bands coming up, and yeah, these are two great fucking examples. So yeah, definitely check both these bands out. Both of them are fucking sick. Dwalach, and the title of this is, I have to read it, Te Ver en Te Zward. This is the first EP from this Belgian Death Doom / Funeral Doom act. I believe it is a two-man project, and this is one I got in the Metalhead box, and I would say this is definitely more along the lines of Funeral Doom. It's definitely drenched in misery, sadness, melancholy. other choice adjectives that describe the depressed mood you'll be in listening to this, because right from the first rip, like, this is just slow, plodding, just droning misery with a big gothic flair. Lots of cool atmosphere, though, and one thing I really liked on here that kind of stood out were the keys. They don't sound like the traditional, like, big gothic synths. They kind of sound more like Moog synths. Like, there's a more organic sort of, like, 70s sound to them, or like late 70s, early 80s. They don't necessarily sound like, you know, the big washy synths you would hear in a band like Shape of Despair, even though, like, stylistically, in terms of the music, Shape of Despair is a good comparison. I would say maybe Esoteric as well. Maybe at their heaviest, Ahab. And while it is heavy and oppressive, there's a lot of really, like, pretty melodies. Like, well, like depressing melodies, but they're pretty. There's a really good gothic chants on the title track, which is the first track. Man, I'm not going to be able to read these tracks because the font's kind of hard to read, and this is definitely Flemish or Belgian or whatever they speak there. It's not English, that's for damn sure. Well, maybe except for the last track. It's just one word, Vorst, and I really like that track. It is like a really good tension build. It starts off kind of setting up the song, like it's very heavy, drony, but there's this really cool bridge that builds up to the end, and it builds to a really just doomy crescendo that I absolutely loved. Now, you do get like a little bit of a break in terms of the heaviness in here with the interlude. Die Dans die Vlammen, I think that's what that says. We'll go with that. It's an all-acoustic passage, very classical. It kind of just sounds like a very, very depressed bard or minstrel sort of moping his way through town and just telling everyone his depressing story. But it's a good break in terms of the songs in here, because the first two tracks just sort of lay into you and just slowly weigh you down with the crippling depression of life. I mean, that is kind of Funeral Doom's job anyway. Now, this does include like one bonus track. It's the actual demo of the second track. Het Duisterlicht. Maybe, probably not even close, but it's kind of cool to hear the slight difference in production. That one's a little bit warmer. I think the bass is a little bit more prominent, but overall this was pretty interesting. Like, I thought it was going to be black metal just looking at the album cover, which you're seeing it in purple because this gold, you know, version on here doesn't seem to exist, at least in terms of images. But I hadn't really jammed a lot of Funeral Doom here lately, and this was really good. I enjoyed this. I would definitely check out more by this band. Again, very comparable to Shape of Despair, Esoteric, Ahab. Those are all Funeral Doom bands I really enjoy, so yeah, definitely check this out if you're looking for some really slow, heavy bummer music, because it's Funeral Doom. That's what it's there for. Elizabeth, self-titled. This is their, or rather his, debut album. Came out this year. This is a one-man project featuring Joe Gallipeau. I think that's how you say his name. It's probably not the way you say his name, because I screw up all foreign pronunciation. Either way, he goes by Joe Steele on here, but I looked him up and I realized the same guy that is in Expunged and Ice War. So this guy is very prolific, has a lot of projects centered around him, and this is his, like, kind of Bathory tribute. Like early Bathory too, like we're talking the first album, in case you didn't really get the whole cover reference there. This is blackened speed metal, blackened thrash, blackened heavy metal. It is raw, it is crusty, it sounds like it came out the same year as Bathory's debut. Like, he went for like the most like analog but bare bones sort of muddy recording, and honestly it works. Like, it's not mixed poorly, it just has that sort of quality to it, and you can hear all the riffs. D-beat driven pretty much in every song. Not a lot of leads, but it is raw and in your face, and I mean, it captures that old school energy, and I really fucking dug this. There's definitely some Celtic Frost nods on here, or maybe like Hellhammer. I definitely get a lot of like Morbid Tales or Two Megatherion sort of like Tom G. Warrior vocals on here. And I mean, in terms of like modern stuff, this is very much on par with a band like Midnight. Probably just as much fun. I mean, you know, Flames Await Your Soul, the Succubus, you know, the Baphomet. It's all very like occulty and fucking fun on here, and I just dug this fucking album. Now, I think the last two tracks here kind of take a little bit of a break from like the D-beat, you know, like kind of crustiness. Feeding the Night just sounds like straight up first wave black metal. Like, that one probably sounds the most like early Bathory to me. And Desolation just sounds like the thrashiest song on here. Like, it's a little bit more thrash-centric, but it still has that blackened atmosphere on it. Overall, in terms of the music I got in the Metalhead box, this is probably my favorite. Like, I do like the Dwalich, or however the hell you say that. But this is just something that's always going to be fun to me. I love crusty D-beat fucking blackened heavy metal. Like, that shit is always fucking fun. I know Crypt over at Metalomania got the same one in his Metalhead box, so I think this might be like a special promotion with this one. But yeah, Chris, we got a killer album. I hope you have jammed this one too, because I mean, if you like, again, crusty old fucking black metal, speed metal, thrash metal, you're gonna love this too. So yeah, definitely check this out. If you love old school Bathory and Midnight, you're probably gonna dig it. So yeah, check it out. Nethergate, Necro Oasis EP. This is the second EP from this Michigan-based death metal act. I actually have their first EP, Dimensional Purgatory, which I bought from them after seeing them live. I bought this one after seeing them live because they opened up for Deicide, and this is just killer death metal. The name itself, I kind of giggle at because I'm immature, and I think that Nethergate sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons term for like a fucking witch's vagina, kind of like wizard sleeve, except dirtier. But musically, these guys fucking whoop ass. Very like Steve Tucker, Morbid Angel, and like Hate Eternal. Like, this is very brutal, very riffy fucking death metal. Lots of killer drum work. I love the bass work on here, and actually watching them live, the bassist actually doesn't play with a pick, which I think is really cool for as technical and as brutal as this band gets. The vocals are sick. The frontman has a very pronounced, like, deep, kind of gurgly roar, but he enunciates things very well and breaks it up with some really cool high screams every now and then. I love the riff work, especially on the title track. There's really good crawling riffs and some harmonies that actually kind of hark back to like early Death a bit. And the breakdowns on The Third Oath are absolutely fucking sick. The whole album kind of has this whole old school sort of aesthetic, like, you know, early 90s death metal, but like kind of modern brutality. Like, there's a lot of stuff that is just insanely heavy and kind of more akin to like more modern death metal bands, but there's like an old school aesthetic, especially to the riff work on here. And while it is heavy as hell, it doesn't skimp on melodies. There are actually some really good melodic hooks on a lot of these songs. Personally, I like talking about bands where my first impression of them was their live set. And that kind of continues with this one because this is only the second time I've seen them live, and I ended up buying more stuff from them just because their live performance was so goddamn good. They played a lot off of this EP as well as the first EP, and I was really impressed with this one. I think it's actually a little bit better than their last EP, which I thought was really good. So it's good to hear this band like get tighter and, you know, like better as musicians over the course of a couple of EPs. Strongly recommend checking these guys out. I don't think they have a full length yet. I imagine they're probably working on one, but 2 EPs, they're both really good. Strongly recommend both of those, and definitely go see these guys live. They put on a killer live show. It's just fucking intense as hell, and the fucking stage banner is pretty funny sometimes too. So yeah, definitely check this band out. Check out this EP, check out their first EP. Killer Michigan death metal, definitely check them out. They're fucking solid. And finally, Alexis on Fire, Otherness. Not the most metal way to cap off this collection update, considering how much brutal fucking filthy shit was in this, but I'm a longtime fan of this band. I got into them around Watch Out, got their first album, which was, you know, good. I thought Watch Out was better than Crisis and Old Crows, Young Cardinals. I really latched onto. And then this band just kind of broke up, and, you know, I think a lot of people kind of forgot about them. I know Dallas Green started doing City in Color, which is amazing in its own right, but I missed this band. And then a friend of mine on Facebook put up a post with this album cover saying, hey, this is the new Alexis on Fire and it's amazing. I was like, fuck, I have to get that. And I am so glad I did. Honestly, this might be the most refined piece of work this band has ever put out. Now, they're definitely more along the lines of like post-hardcore, but this definitely sees them sort of change around that a little bit. Like, there's definitely post-hardcore all over this, but there's a lot more like just jammy stuff, like more like stoner rock, blues rock. The synths are a little bit more prominent, like especially on Sans Soleil, which honestly, like listening to that, it kind of sounds like a Cure song, and I fucking love the Cure. And maybe even like remotely comparable, like Duran Duran's Ordinary World. I love that song too. It's just a good, you know, sappy fucking ballad. And Sans Soleil kind of has that vibe too, but when they get heavy, it's kind of more along the lines of like a Killing Joke heavy. Like, it's not quite metal, but it has some nasty heavy riffs. But my God, the fucking choruses on here. The vocals of Dallas Green, I think, are absolutely amazing. But the chorus, especially on Blue Spade and Survivor's Guilt and Sweet Dreams of Otherness. Like, honestly, I can name every fucking track. They're so goddamn catchy. They're so damn emotive. Like, you can hear him sort of pouring his heart out into the lyrics and the delivery. It's one thing I've always loved about this band. Like, they really kind of just go for the heart on a lot of their delivery. Like, they want to get a good emotional response. Probably why they got called emo too. But this is definitely kind of beyond that sound. Like, it's just a giant sized rock album with a lot of variety, a lot of different songwriting styles on here. I absolutely love this. I think this might be their best album yet. Like, I'd definitely say it's their most mature, because like there isn't a lot of that like spastic sort of post-hardcore energy that you'd hear on the earlier releases. But what they've replaced it with, I think, is absolutely incredible. I didn't realize how much I missed this band until I sat down and jammed this, and I've jammed this multiple times so far, and I think this is absolutely fantastic. If you're a big fan of maybe like modern Thrice, I think that is probably the closest thing offhand that I can compare this to, because there again is a lot going on in here. But this is just a fantastic album. Great songwriting, great vocal hooks, just kind of great everything. Welcome back, Alexis on Fire. I fucking missed you. This is an absolutely amazing return. And again, not quite what I thought I would get, but honestly, I am beyond pleased with what this is. So yeah, if you have never checked out Alexis on Fire, I don't know if this is the place to start, because this does represent some of their overall sound, but this is much bigger. But I'm just going to go ahead and say, check this one out, and then kind of go from there if you choose to go down that path. But yeah, not necessarily metal, but 100% fucking good. Amazing album, start to finish. Love it. Definitely check it out. All right, that knocks out another collection update. I got a small stack brewing already, so I'm probably going to get down to that. And of course, plenty of reviews coming up this month. September's pretty fucking loaded, to be honest. There's a lot of big releases. We've got a lot of response from the Megadeth review, and that Megadeth album absolutely fucking whoops ass. But we also got like Ozzy coming up, and fucking Revocation, Bloodbath. Hell, even Slipknot and the Mars Volta are coming out with albums, and I kind of want to go over those too. So yeah, it's going to be a busy month. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Within that link is a link to our Patreon, and while you're there, you can check out our shirts. Maybe get one of those. We will have new merch coming. We're still kind of toying with what would be the best style of hat, or maybe shorts or something like that. I don't know. We're kind of thinking about things we can put our name on. Got a bit of a response for the grenades, and I gotta tell you, that's grossly irresponsible of us, but I kind of want to do it anyway. But at the same time, prison doesn't sound great either, so I don't know. But seriously, we will have other merch in there, and we will let you know when we do. And as always, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. Cracked 12,000, and we're already 200 deep into 12,000 now. So the response here has been amazing here lately. So thank you guys so much. I know I do this at the end of every video, and I try to think of different things to say, and I often fail, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to put it into words what I'm feeling, because it's just amazing. Like I never thought that this, channel would get to the level it's at. I know, like, in the vast sea of YouTube channels, we are small, but I love doing this, and getting to this level past even 10,000, past like 5,000, past 1,000, if I'm being completely honest, it feels awesome. It kind of validates us, yeah, we're doing the right thing by trying to promote all this kick-ass metal out there. So again, thank you all so much, and we will catch you later.